let's begin this session. Okay, welcome all participants. I hope in the next 2-3 minutes we'll have a lot of more participants joining in. Welcome to this Financial Market Leadership Insight series for management students. Okay, we thought that the times are changing, and the career opportunities and placement opportunities are not going to remain the same as it was in the earlier years. So we thought that we will pick up certain select verticals. May I request all of you to put on mute? So basically, we thought that we will pick up certain verticals of financial markets that employ a lot of management students and do some career planning and career opportunities workshop. So this first workshop is on career opportunities in the non-banking finance companies. Specifically, we wanted to do this workshop because NBFCs now command a lot bigger share as compared to how it was about 5 years ago. And no other person better than Mr. Sandeep Ghosh, who's heading corporate strategy and planning with Srei Equipment Finance Limited. He has about 20 years of work experience in the financial industry space, out of which predominant areas are in predominantly in NBFC space. So I thought we will get him to understand the details. Without taking much time, I'll take only about a minute, okay, to just take you through what we do. This is our vision basically. FMLI is at war for achieving the right kind of employability desired by financial market participants. What happens is placement everybody gets, but important thing is, do you actually get the right kind of placement? Okay, is the question. Lot of you want to get into investment banking, trading, derivatives, but is your orientation enough? And are you working towards making it possible? And are you being matched with the right kind of opportunity in the marketplace? This is our vision. Okay. How we are solving this problem is by bridging the gap between industry need and understanding. This is not a session to market ourselves, so I will limit ourselves to very brief. Okay, we provide extensive education on clearing fundamentals and also the advanced aspects, and also live market experience. Okay, as a result, not only is placement not a challenge, but when you join your jobs, okay, first 2-3 years, when others are struggling, you actually make quite a good amount of inroad, and this actually makes a lot of difference. Okay, these are the some programs that we take, but again, this is not about marketing our institute, so I will skip. Especially, I want to talk about this Leadership Insight series. So all of you who have registered will continue receiving our invites for these career opportunity workshops, as well as other domain intensive workshops that we do. Please make sure you participate and also share these opportunity with other close friends. This first session we are hosting on career opportunities in NBFCs. Then next month, and we are also doing a workshop on early stage funding of companies. You would be aware with the like of Zomato, Swiggy, Udemy, and all the other unicorns. Early stage funding, PE funding, angel funding has become very important and taking a significant share. And unfortunately, we are not completely oriented towards it. So next month, we are going to do a workshop on this. And the third workshop will be on career opportunities in investment banking. So please be clued in. We also have a WhatsApp group where we discuss a lot of career opportunities and what is happening in financial markets. If you're interested in participating in the workshop, in the WhatsApp group, please leave your number. Okay, because I don't want to add unknown numbers. So if you can just put your number if I have your consent. We also do a lot of career counseling sessions individually as well as with colleges. So feel free to connect with me for any of these sessions. Ask your placement committee also to get in touch with me. If any of you are placement committee members, feel free to basically connect with us. We can seriously help you scale up this barrier that financial markets actually pose in our mind, which is in reality not there simply because we don't understand it well. Okay, these are my connects. My name is Samir Jaiswal. I'm otherwise a CEO with a fintech company, and this is our venture. This is my contact details. You can also email me at samir@fmli.in. Now, without wasting time, I will just hand it over to my friend and main speaker for today, Mr. Sandeep Ghosh.
Yeah, thank you, Samir. Am I audible, Samir?
Yes, you are audible. 1 minute, I'll stop this sharing. Okay, can you share your screen now, Sandeep?
Just give me a minute.
I'm making you the host.
Yeah, you'll have to, and you have to stop sharing also.
Yeah. Yeah, I stopped sharing.
Just a test before I start.
Yes, we
Are
can
you
see
able to see me as well as the screen?
Yes, Sandeep.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so it's quite 4 o'clock now, so past 4. So good evening, all of you, and thank you for taking your time out. Incidentally, I was planning to wear a jacket today, and I had asked Samir, a dear friend and a classmate of mine, that how formal is this? And he said, be comfortable. But it reminded me of my B school days and, the muftis we would be in. And I took the opportunity of, going in for a formal session wherein I could, pull up a t-shirt. Uh, at the same time, the reason I am anecdotally sharing this is because the world has moved ahead of attires. The world has moved ahead of, very, very structured, top heavy organizations. The world has moved ahead of hierarchies. The world today is becoming more and more nimble. The world today is actually a working scenario where the organizations are extremely flat. The reason I'm starting on that note is because all of you need to understand that you are actually the right fit in most of the organizations you would be looking forward to working in. And as I build the case for why a career in NBFCs, I would also share with all of you a little bit of my background as well as my journey to make this whole thing a little bit more relevant, little bit more real for all of you, so that you are able to identify on someone's journey, uh, whereas not wanting to, kind of step onto that journey, but more from a perspective of picking up things which work for you, which can work for you, and as you go along in your career. So without much ado, let me quickly introduce myself. Samir, thank you so much for your kind words. I've actually crossed 25 years of WorkX. And having said that, I realize it means nothing. It actually means nothing, because whether it's 25 years or there is a massive change in the last 25 minutes and I'm not aligned to that, then my 25 years are wasted. So that's one of the critical points I'll be talking about as we go ahead. In these 25 years, what have I really done? Close to 12 years of mortgages in various leadership positions, including national leadership positions, launched businesses. I work with large organizations like HDFC, G Capital, G Countrywide, ICICI Bank. I was the regional head for mortgages. And mortgages practically was my founding stone or my foundation of my career. So that's where you could call mortgages to be asset finance. Yes, it is one part of asset finance. A large part of mortgages is not operating asset finance, but assets which have intrinsic value but don't generate revenues on an ongoing basis. However, there is also that part of mortgage which generates revenue on an ongoing basis. So some of them are also operating assets. Post mortgages, I have been the national head of one of the insurance companies for more than 7.5 years and worked across geographies. Apart from that, I also had a startup of my own, which was into international trade and working with various countries. Post that, I have gone into becoming the corporate strategy head for Shrey Equipment Finance, a pure asset finance company, a market leader in its space, more than 33% market share, a book of close to 40,000 crores, which is, I would say close to $6.5 billion. And we have been there in the market for 30 years. So that's another journey, which I'm now into and learning as we speak. So these 25 years, primarily my learnings have been in the field of, in the field of distribution, in the field of managing the P&L, and also cross-functional verticals. Having said that, I've also worked with ABN AMRO Bank for a couple of years. So, it's a career of banking and financial services. I am a management graduate and have had the opportunity of also visiting various IIMs and other international programs, over my career, and have picked up a lot in terms of how to be nimble, how to have a project design, etc. So that's me in brief. The reason I spoke about myself is to tell you that with my kind of little experience, whatever I will be telling you, while it will be straight from the heart, it will also be extremely well researched. I have people like you coming and joining our teams who are either experienced people or fresh from the institutes, even experienced from the institutes. We do have a lot of management graduates who come and work for us, who contribute immensely to our growth. And hence, I take this responsibility of whatever I'm going to share with all of you. It's going to make, good amount of relevance in your decisioning system. And as we go along, you're free to ask questions. And additionally, at a point in time, you would also be free to, I assume you would be free to reach out to me for anything I share with you and seek answers or clarifications or even contribute to my learning. So that's the note on which I would like to start. Just a second, the screen isn't moving. Yeah.
You have to go to the, you will be, correct.
It's moved, Samir. So, technology, my biggest learning in this 25 years, and again, anecdotally speaking, Samir, is whenever you want technology to work best, that's the time technologies actually become an impediment.
That is where youngsters score much against.
Yes. But today, having said that, I would love to call myself a youngster as far as technology is concerned, because every day I'm trying to pick up something or the other, because I know it doesn't matter what I've done in the last 25 years. If I have to survive for the next 12 to 15 years, I have to be as nimble and smart as them. So that's the key challenge. So that's on a jest. But as we move ahead, I'm going to speak to all of you about overview of the NBFC sector, the competitive landscape, and I've got some very interesting slides on your skill sets, career opportunities, etc. What do you really need to do to come into this sphere? Going ahead, just a small disclaimer. My opinions are basically my own, and just chuck it if you don't think they're relevant. Don't hold me against it. So going forward, uh, this is something which is very interesting, and all of you need to know this. Uh, this is, of course, RBI data. In the whole NBFC space, which is non-banking financial companies, some of the parts of the industry, they also talk about NBFCs as non-banking financial institutions. If you go to US, they will not talk about non-banking financial institutions, but they'll straight away go and say non-banks. And that's where the pain starts. That's where really the pain starts, because we're not non-banks. Why should we be compared to banks whatsoever? That's the basic inherent structural deficiency in the way the financial system looks at banks and non-banks. If you really, I'll just go back. If you really talk about, what should we be addressed with? We should be spoken as or addressed as specialized financial institutions, or we should be addressed as specialized financial services, or something like that, but not as banks or non-banks, because banks have a role uh, in terms of financial services, in terms of ensuring non-bank segments be banked, which is financial inclusion. They have various other products and strategies, but at the same time, non-banks or NBFCs, also serve in a very specific way. So to really relegate the whole importance of an NBFC by saying non-banking financial institutions may not be the best way of addressing it. So I'm a little touchy about this. So I always get into this field. They're close to 9,642 of these non-banking financial institutions. These slides would be available with you. There are also AFIs, there are HFCs, but what is the space you really need to look at? If you go right down the last part of the slide, uh, 274 systematically important NBFCs. ND is non-deposit taking and deposit taking. So most of the NBFCs are non-deposit taking, and the ones with a net worth of more than 500 crores is systematically important. Now, let me tell you, a lot of people think, NBFCs systematically important or not systematically important, or even the smaller ones, the large number of smaller ones, more than 9,000 smaller ones. They serve very specific products. They serve very specific industry, and they serve very specific customer needs. I'll come to that. But most importantly, there is a belief that NBFCs are not regulated, or they're not adequately regulated. Let me tell you, we are regulated more than the banks. And it may be surprising to you that for the last of whole financial year, banks have been given a leeway not to implement Ind AS, which is the new accounting standard, which is a standard which is very close to IFRS, in terms of provisioning norms, in terms of estimated credit loss, etc. I'm not getting into the details of that, but NBFCs were not given the leeway, and NBFCs have been asked to get into ensuring that the accounting system, or the accounting principles, Ind AS, the new one, had to be implemented from day one without any kind of leeway. So we are more regulated, we are more structured today than before. We are as regulated or as monitored by the central bank, which means the Reserve Bank of India, as much as the banks. More than 6 months, the regulator is sitting in our offices doing audits. So practically, it's an apple to apple story when it comes to regulation and managing the system, but it's not an apple to apple story when it comes to generating the liability part of it, which is raising funds, etc. Banks have a better leeway, better support. We really struggle to raise funds, and that makes it an opportunity for all of you. So why am I, even when I'm weaving the story of the imbalance between banks and NBFCs, I'm actually weaving the story for you to understand that there is a career opportunity in that for you. So now moving ahead, there are, of course, it's a little busy slide. I'm not going to talk much about it. There are asset finance companies, loan companies, investment companies. Then there are, companies like core investment companies where, they invest into their group companies. There are IFCs which look at infrastructure loans, and the list goes on. This will be available with you. Interestingly, the last one, which is NBFC P2P, the P2P regulations have also come out. So, there are a large number of different types of NBFCs which are there in the market. We will talk about few of them. We will talk about, what they do and so on and so forth. Why this slide? I don't need to, put up a slide of types of NBFCs to, management graduate or a aspiring management trainee. The reason I've put up this slide is because when you look for an opportunity or a career opportunity in a bank, you may be looking at, okay, let me get into the bank, become an MT, and then look at various avenues, and then I will select the vertical. The beauty of NBFCs is the vertical itself is the company. So the depth of learning you will have, if you're in an asset finance company, you will learn to raise money, which is treasury functions. You will learn to deploy money, which is risk, credit, and business functions. You will learn to put this money through processes, which is operating processes. The length and breadth of risk, the length and breadth of technology of an asset finance company. Vis-a-vis, when someone gets into a bank and is in asset finance, vertical, initially, what would you really learn? You would learn that, okay, there is a transfer pricing. I get the money with the transfer pricing, and then I'll have to have products, and you may learn a little on building products and then selling those. So, having said that, the learning in an NBFC, whether you want to pursue your career in an NBFC or not, my humble and strong recommendation is that at least 2 to 3 years, if not more, of your career, you must work in NBFC, and preferably a promoter-driven NBFC. The kind of learning, the kind of depth of learning, and the exposure to various verticals of business function you'll get, which be so large and so wide in terms of the content, is that it'll take you ways forward when you try to enhance your career, and when you try to bring in that spurt in your career which will give you better growth, higher aspirations, and so on and so forth. So NBFCs, a career with NBFC can actually give you the depth of learning and catapult you to a higher level. Moving ahead, genesis of NBFCs, yes, it is a large number of small NBFCs in pre-1998. 1998 implementation of prudential guidelines came in. Yes, there were a lot of frauds. There were a lot of malpractices. Uh, Unfortunately, a lot of promoters in this space were not, you know, were not, scrupulous. A lot of unwanted practices were there. But post 1998, there were prudential guidelines and a lot of monitoring started post 1998. Low interest rate regime and emergence of specialized NBFCs pre 2008. Markets heated up. Things became extremely competitive. NBFCs were also able to raise a lot of funds, and hence, low interest rate regime and emergence of specialized NBFCs. Post 2008, increased cost of borrowings and healthy growth observed, but cost of borrowings went up. Primarily more than 80% of the borrowings of NBFCs come from banks. And that's again a flawed structure. That's absolutely a different subject altogether. But that's also a flawed structure when it comes to raising debt or even tier 2 capital, etc. Then again, the government recognized, and all segments of the financial world recognized the importance and the element of important elements of NBFCs and what they contribute to the economy. And given that currently there is a lot of focus and there is a lot of dedicated, structured impetus being given to the NBFCs. Is it enough? The question is no. Are we there? Yes, we are reaching there. So going ahead, I'll just try and demonstrate to you how important are we. Okay, so here is a small accounting caveat. What I'm saying is, NBFC's credit, the overall credit of NBFCs till now, as of FY20, is close to 15% of the GDP. Now, of course, NBFC credit is a balance sheet item, wherein GDP is a P&L item. So, I'm not getting into that, but that is the sheer size of contribution. If you quickly look at the highlights of this slide, one of the things is NBFC's growth in systemic credit is at a CAGR of close to 17%. And if you see the bank numbers moving from FY14 to projected FY20, it's from a 76 to a 69% contribution on the left side of the slide. And you see NBFC contribution is growing up and up. Yes, a counter argument could be that, okay, the base of the banks are more, so probably the growth is lesser. But given the unserved markets in India and the sheer size of the overall market in India, I think that argument may not hold too good. I think as financial institutions, we need to do much more in terms of growth. But to give you this very segmentation of 22% systemic credit contribution is by no means small. In FY20 projected, 30 trillion INR would be the total systemic credit, which is 30 trillion INR, in crores would be close to 30 lakh crores. So that's the sheer size of the NBFC credit, and it is growing at a very high pace. Reason for putting this up is because when you choose your career, you always need to see which is that segment which will give you not just a short term but a mid-term career. In terms of, you may not stick with one organization, you may not stick with one role. You may not stick with one vertical. You may want to do more things, but given the sheer growth and the sheer width of the different types of things NBFCs do, it is a case in point to have a career in. Moving ahead, again, NBFC is beating the growth rate of the banks in terms of credit growth outperforming. Yes, FY19 onwards, there has been a dip because of the ILFS issues. However, very interesting, even after the dip, it's not sharply going down. It's kind of continuing to remain at a range bound level. It is interesting to understand that retail segments expect to grow at a much steadier pace, while wholesale and MSME segments to witness significant slowdown. Now, what is retail? Anything which is more to do with B2C. When we talk about a wholesale or a micro, small, medium enterprise, we're actually talking about NBFCs which are more in B2B are going to see muted growth. The ones which are more in B2C are going to see exponential growth. Okay, if not, let me just mute down a bit. If not exponential growth in all, but yes, in a few really exponential growth. And when I show you the names, I'll tell you which are the ones which could give you exponential growth. So again, a case in point that this is the industry which is going to be there for long. This is a segment which is going to be there for long. And, there is a merit case in point for all of you to start looking at this environment, to start looking at this, segment of the financial services and see whether you fit in with your kind of skill sets. Okay, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this slide. How are NBFCs so very different when it comes to banks and other financial institutions? Banks and financial institutions are large, very structured, different verticals, specialists, generalists, in various verticals, and they have a certain way of operating. When it comes to NBFCs, of course, there are processes, SOPs, everything, but what makes them different? First and foremost, an NBFC becomes different because it's nimble. The speed of decisioning, the speed of service, the speed of reaching out to the client with the right offering, the speed of understanding the client and dovetailing the product. So let me pick up one of the points, deep understanding of the customer requirement. So let me give you an example. For example, we are the largest in the construction mining equipment financing space. Every third equipment you see on the road is practically financed by us. What are the things we finance? A backhoe loader, a JCB backhoe loader, or a Komatsu backhoe loader, a crane, a tower cranes you see, could be an excavator. And as I speak, just across my window, there is a hydraulic crane which is operating in a new construction. So every third equipment you see on the road is practically financed by us. Apart from that, we finance these equipments for roads, mines, irrigation work, and we finance for any kind of earth moving work, you name it, anything in infrastructure. Of course, we have a small portfolio of IT equipment, medical equipment, and farm equipment, and some large leasing portfolios. But of course, our core business is construction mining equipment funding. Why am I talking about this? Not to promote ourselves, but to give you an example. How deep understanding of customer requirements do we have? We know that if a customer is wanting to buy a certain grade of an excavator and is going to use in a mine, whether that grade will last a hotbed mine, because hotbed mines, you cannot have a wheeled equipment, wherein there is a wheel, a rubber wheel, because the rubber wheels will, burst, because the hotbed mine will make it burst. So if someone is doing a overburden removal, the overburden on the mine is doing an overburden removal, a certain grade of equipment, excavator, etc., is required. We also know that for every excavator, depending on the distance, of course, another 3 dumpers would be required to, ferry the earth which is being moved. And we know which customer would be able to execute that job, what are the skill sets which are required to execute that job. And with this kind of understanding of geography, which this kind of understanding of the customer, the asset type, we are able to guide the customer whether the customer should actually take that equipment, because all our equipments are operating equipment. The customer will pay for our equipments only when there is an operating return on the equipment. So the reason I'm sharing with you the story is that is the level of depth of understanding an NBFC has towards serving its customers. Now, niche customized product offerings. Let me talk to you about Bajaj Finance. Very simple. If you get into a FMCG market and you are there, maybe, you're there at electronic durables store, and you want to pick up a TV. So what do you have? You have you have your bank account, you have your credit card, and you have your aspiration. And here comes someone who tells you that, look, I can give you a 0% loan or maybe a 3% loan just now. Now, the customized product is that this approval happens in 30 seconds. If this doesn't happen in 30 seconds, you may choose to just swipe your card, or you may just choose to, because you're just there to buy the product and you're in a frame of mind where you want to use this product as soon as possible. There is this huge level of excitement. So the niche product is the speed of delivery of the product itself, and completely systemic, completely digitized end to end, and completely, harassment free, happens at the stroke of a decision, and one gets to enjoy the product rather than get actually caught up in the whole process of the loan. So this is the kind of benefit a fintech can bring in, or a organization like Bajaj Finance can bring in. And then wider effective reach. This is very critical. I have not just mentioned here wider reach. Yes, banks also have wider reach. What does effective reach means? Today, we have close to 80 offices across, branches across India. We are there in practically every location where any other bank or financial institution is there. But we are there in terms of our people and reach where our products are really needed. There is no point sitting in a city if my contractor is sitting in a tier 3 or a tier 4 city. So I have to be able to reach out to the customer. The effective reach has to be there in terms of the business. Unfortunately, financial institutions and banks have a way of reaching out, a very structured way of reaching out, and they have their business correspondents, etc. But that structured way takes time, and we are able to reach out as NBFCs. We know the customer, we know exactly where the customer is available, where does the customer reside, what is the overall market size, and who are the customers. That is the depth of understanding of an NBFC, because we are very, very focused in terms of the business we do. And that's what makes the difference. And today, the win-win situation is NBFCs are also able to do co-lending arrangement with banks with the new regulations of RBI. We can see banks are sitting on large amount of liquidity, huge liquidity. However, this is another concept which I do not know whether Tier A management institutes have started talking about it, but if not, they must talk about it. which is transmission of liquidity. You know, liquidity is one thing. Today, reverse repo rates have been reduced, but still banks are so risk averse that they're not moving their money into giving loans or other things. So transmission of liquidity is much more important than liquidity itself. This very whole thing of co-lending arrangements with banks, NBFCs know the customers, NBFCs know the market, they know the risk strategies, they know exactly what would be the cost of risk. You know, if you go into a certain market and the customer profile, banks do not have that kind of expertise, but they have huge amount of liquidity and reach and customer base. So both can be married. It's a win-win situation, and co-lending can happen. NBFCs are constrained on liquidity. Then again, all NBFCs today are looking at leveraging technology. So fintechs, a lot of these fintech activities can actually marry in to NBFC portfolio, to an NBFC overall delivery system, and ensure that the cost of operations, the cost of delivery goes down. Of course, the robustness of risk again is very, very critical in NBFCs. It is not something where you know, goes through various layers of risk. It is a clear understanding of risk and a lot of digitization. Today, as I was mentioning a little while ago, in the last 30 years, we know that there are different types of customers. Let me give you an example. We know that, okay, there is first-time user, a first-time buyer, contractor who does outsourcing work for large organizations like Samir, am I audible? Hello?
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Okay, because there was a lag here suddenly.
Yeah, there was a lag.
Yeah. So as I was mentioning, the customer segments, and then there are these medium-sized customer, you know, contractors who serve large contractors like L&T, etc. And then there are the likes of L&T. So they are all our customers across, you know, the length and breadth of the customer segment. There's a reason why I'm giving this example. And we know that a first-time buyer, a first-time user, as well as, you know, a medium size contractor, how does one react in Rajasthan vis-a-vis how does one react in Madhya Pradesh? We also know if a person is buying a JCB backhoe loader vis-a-vis a Sani backhoe loader, you know, what is the resale value of these backhoe loaders, and hence how do these customers react in their repayment? And of course, what are the productivities of these equipments? So what do we really have today? We have the understanding of the customer. So we build technologically, we build a customer engine. Then and this is 30 years data. Then we have understanding of the geography. So we, you know, build the geography engine on top of the customer engine. And then we have the asset engine. So the asset curve, how have assets really behaved as they, you know, got depreciated over a period of time. What do we really do? We bring in an AI and we create a robust risk matrix, and which helps us in decisioning, and which helps us in, you know, taking calls without any kind of human intervention. So, and hence makes the whole, you know, going forward, makes it very interesting in terms of managing small ticket loans, maybe up to 1 crore. But when it goes upwards, yes, we bring in more human intervention. So the robustness of the risk management system may not be that robust in other, you know, segments, but NBFCs today, because of their constraints of liquidity, because of the constraints of resources, because of their constraints of capital, because of the constraints on cost, they are trying to build in more and more of technology. And that is where the beauty of the career really comes in. Competitive landscape, of course, you know, more in infrastructure space, you have 20, I'll go a little faster now, and housing 24%. So These are in auto finance, close to 15%, MSME finance, close to 13, wholesale, gold, microfinance. So across, just look at it across length and breadth of various products and services, this is available. NBFCs are operating. Again, I have tried to show to all of you the competitive position, of all the NBFCs in infrastructure. Of course,
Sandeep, I have a question.
Yes.
These segmentation that you are showing, that you showed earlier also, what is the primary reason of having so much of segmentation? Is it essentially to get domain expertise?
Okay, so the reason I'm showing this segmentation is because, as I told you right in the beginning, Samir, NBFCs are not multi-segment organizations. If I'm a housing finance company, I will work in the mortgage space.
Okay.
If I'm an infrastructure finance company, I'll do infrastructure project finance.
Okay.
If I am in the equipment finance space, I will do equipment finance, asset financing. So NBFCs are specialized institutions, and hence, if you want to learn a specialized institution-wise financial services, and over the years you may want to spend a couple of years in 2 to 3 segments, NBFCs are a space which gives you the length and breadth, starting from liability to the asset side of the balance sheet.
Got it.
You can get the length and breadth of that experience, as I mentioned earlier, and not get lost or defocused into doing multiple things but not doing them deep. That is the benefit of NBFCs, because if you're working in an auto finance company, you will get to know auto finance, CVs, used auto finance, and so on and so forth. And hence you will get to know all movable asset finance knowledge you'll garner over a period of time. And again, having said that, you will gather that knowledge both from the liability as well as the asset perspective. Right. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So moving ahead, again, competitive positions.
To be a bit faster, actually.
Yeah, I will just be a little faster now. So I'm not reading out these slides, but these give you the competitive positions as to why these institutions do so well. Again, here are some of the infrastructure companies, of course, the likes of L&T Finance, etc. Now I'm going to talk about, I'm going to just leave these slides, but I'm going to talk about 5 companies which do so well. All NBFCs which have a very focused view towards a product, they start doing well. Okay. Now, talking about it, let's talk about Bajaj Finance. Why does it do well? It is a complete end-to-end technology-driven organization. No one has been able to copy that. Why does Mahindra Finance do well? Because it does Mahindra tractors end-to-end, stitching up with the dealers of the tractors. So there is absolutely seamless delivery to the customers. Shriram Transport Finance, or Shriram or Sundaram, why do they do so well? They do so well because they're into mostly used, CVs. In every toll naka, at every toll naka, there is a person of Shriram. If someone is defaulting, the truck will not go from one toll to the other. It will get caught. So just imagine the depth of, understanding of the business and how to ensure recoveries. It's very easy to give money. There are institutions, banks, where money is given, but the branch manager cannot leave his branch, and hence collection doesn't happen, and hence the NPAs go up. And then you have specialized HFCs like HDFC and LIC Housing. Yes, we have had some bad experiences in the HFC space. But what I'm trying to say is NBFCs, when they get into this field of work, they become market leaders in that space because of the depth of their, depth of their understanding of the business and very, very clear creation of moat. For us, as Shrey Equipment Finance, if you see construction equipment, how are we the market leaders? We work on the equipment life cycle. Now, we are financing an operating asset. We tell our customers that even if your asset is not operating because you've lost the job, or your asset is not operating because it's got a downtime, what do we really do? We ensure the asset deployment in straight 2 weeks time. We ensure that there is spare parts financing. We ensure if someone wants to exit the product and buy a new one, there is used equipment financing, and of course new equipment and leasing. We are the pioneers in leasing products in India today, as far as construction equipments are concerned. So again, these are the specialized ways NBFCs operate. Now coming to your career opportunities, where all would you be able to work? Yes, of course, sales is of course there, credit, collections. Very interestingly, for the finance guys, risk is one place we are really looking to take people. And when I say we, I mean the whole NBFC, and risk driven by analytics and technology. Legal and compliance also is very, very high up in NBFCs today because it's widely regulated. But when it comes to credit risk analytics, it's extremely technology driven, and anyone who would want to venture out into these fields, it's very clear that you'll have to drive it with a clear understanding of technology. Of course, very interestingly, Samir, and this may excite you guys because you give a lot of career counseling. Close to 20 to 25% is campus hiring. And while this fiscal may be a little constrained, but NBFCs, most of the NBFCs go to the campuses, and all range of campuses, because we need all range of professionals, and we hire from campuses. Of course, lateral hiring is the largest, but there's a large segment, close to 2,500 to 3,000 people get hired from campuses in NBFCs. These are some of the functional compositions of 40 to 50% is in sales and customer service. Collections and recoveries, that's another. Don't undermine collection and recoveries, because there's a lot of technology. There's a lot of, when you talk about collection and recoveries today, we take people in collection and recoveries who have clear knowledge about legal system, who know what an NCLT is, who knows the balance sheet analysis inside out, who knows about project finance, who knows how to work with CFOs in given companies to structure their loans so that they don't default, and so on and so forth. So it's a, today we have even investment bankers in large ticket exposures who manage, one or two portfolios, just one or two portfolios a person is managing, because the exposure could be one or two accounts, the exposure itself could be 500 crores. So, that is the kind of people, the range of people we hire. We also hire collections people who are at the lower strata, who are more on
Sandeep, I have a question.
Yeah.
Students who I meet, they generally want to get into product development, product design, etc. Whereas from your slide, I see that very less opportunities are there for core product development. Even in NBFC, and even it is true for banks as well. I have about 20 years of experience in the stock market and stock exchange capital markets. There also everybody wants to get into exotic areas like product design. However, the reality is not, actually reality doesn't match up to that. Most of the recruitments happen in back office or sales and customer support, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So
again, Samir, to be fair to everyone who are participating here, product design, you can start your career in a product design team. Of course, that's easy to start. Whether you'll be able to design a product so soon, it will take time. And I'll tell you how you can get into this product design space. It is important to understand an industry and the customer segment and what we are doing very well before we start developing products. So product design and development comes with, a lot of expertise, and hence you see, direct, hiring of 1 to 5%. And even this 1 to 5% would be in product development from the best of the students and the statistical institutes. To an extent, even actuaries at times, while they may not be, doing any actuarial work, but they may be doing a lot of risk analysis. Okay,
Yes,
so
actually, one of the things that I want to add here, Sandeep, when I meet students in MBA colleges, finance students, and I take their career counseling, etc., a lot of them, for example, want to get into derivatives trading, okay, or securities trading. But the problem here in India is that if you don't scale yourself up, okay, in terms of understanding and knowledge, you end up being sitting on the terminal taking clients' orders. Okay, and if you take clients'
absolutely,
orders in a brokerage firm, you end up with a salary of only 12,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees, and it does not
absolutely,
seriously give you a career what you actually want. See, two people sitting on trading terminals, one taking customer orders and one doing proprietary trading. Somebody doing proprietary trading would be earning in crores, whereas the other taking customer orders will be earning 10,000 or 12,000 rupees a month. And the serious problem is that students don't understand that there is this kind of difference, and they don't work on themselves and scale themselves up.
yeah. So that's another slide which I've got, Samir, and I'm going to whatever you mentioned, Samir. I'm going to spin it a little bit. Uh, the point I'm going to tell all the students is that there's no harm wanting to sit on a terminal or aspiring to become an investment banker or some very, very high end, so-called high end job because it's more perceptual than reality. Uh, and that's what I've realized in my last 25 years that, investment banking, you know, you kind of make it more glorious than what it is really, because when you start looking at treasury functions, you half of the time you're doing investment banking job. Okay, only thing I'm going to tell you guys is that aspire to look at any uh, you know uh, great job as per you, but what you should not be doing is to get fixated onto a job. It is very important to work across functions. If you really want to do well in life, you have to work across functions. You cannot be working as someone who's a trader. A trader needs to move from becoming a trader to understanding other facets of the business and managing other facets of the business. If you really want to go up that, I wouldn't say the ladder, but go up your aspiration uh, curve which you have built for yourself. Uh, you cannot be working in just one segment. You cannot be aspiring to build across one segment. And especially in the next 20 years, every 3 years, you have to change and learn newer things. And every day, of course, in the job, you have to learn newer things to stay relevant. So it's going to become in every bit of it, it's going to become very, very, very competitive if you don't upskill or reskill yourself. So,
I want to add, Sandeep, something in this for everybody. See, even after 20, 25 years of work experience, every year, it's a new start for everybody. And especially, if you really want to do something. Uh, Personally, professionally, I work as a CEO with a fintech company. But when I wanted to launch my venture, I thought that it will be a good idea to get into digital marketing and understand the ropes myself. Because if we have to work with ad agencies and digital marketing companies, and if you yourself don't understand, then how are you going to extract the maximum and how are you going to devise this strategy? The problem
absolutely.
is most of these companies are only executors. The strategy has to come from yourself. Okay, and for that you have to work on yourself on a continuous basis in multiple domains, as Sandeep is talking about.
And you have to have clear understanding of those multiple domains. How do they operate? How does the PNL work? What are the levers which drive them? It is very very easy to learn about artificial intelligence. I can learn about artificial intelligence, blockchain, you name it, IoTs. I can keep going on and that, and you have so many professionals which you can hire. Most of this is also in the open source, so you can get people and expertise very easily. But how do you use this? How do you use all this knowledge? What would the AI work on? Which part of the engine would the AI work on? Which are the which are those processes where you would want to have a blockchain? Blockchain is a extremely audited ledger. Now, if you start using a blockchain in something which is not required, your costs will go up. But how would you really know? So, understanding of the business, understanding of processes, understanding the levers of profitability, understanding the levers of risk and credit is very, very critical in all businesses. And hence, you have to revolve and rotate yourself among various functions and various industries.
Sandeep, I want to add something.
Yeah.
So last year, I gave an interview to Bombay Stock Exchange on how blockchain as a technology is going to evolve. And my argument there was that most of these businesses that operate because of trust, for example, custodian, broker, banks, retail segment, etc., will disappear when blockchain comes into picture. Okay, I will do a separate session on that and maybe invite all of you. It is very important and very scary how blockchain is going to change the entire world of digital financial markets, and you should be attuned towards it.
Absolutely, Samir. That's something which is going to actually transform the world and make it more seamless in terms of kind of error-free and fraud-free. So moving ahead, Samir, what I have also tried to bring in is various of these careers. If you want to build, what are the skill sets needed? I'm not going to read through them, but I've just highlighted in sales and customer support. You need to have an entrepreneurial bent of mind. You need to start thinking, how do I deploy the capital which my promoter or the organization has given? How do I select the right customer? So your entrepreneurial bent of mind is the skill gap today. Today, most of us just want to do something in terms of what we have learned, but entrepreneurial bent of mind is something we need to imbibe in us day in, day out. And the bigger credit appraisal and evaluation, this is a very, very interesting field, especially for the finance guys. We hire a lot of chartered accountants and we hire a lot of MBA finance guys, for credit appraisals and evaluations at across the length and breadth of exposure. Understanding of cash flows and underlying assets, very, very critical. We may know ratios, we may know financial analysis, may know the rating model, we may know very, very hybrid systems. All of that today will be available going forward at the click of a button. But what will not be available is how do you analyze the real cash flow in the business? Because if you do not understand the real cash flow against the asset you're funding or against the security you're funding, your money is not going to come back. And if your money doesn't come back, that's the end of the road. So this is one critical skill gap which one needs to start building. And in collections and recovery, of course, cordial relationships and law enforcement, with law enforcement agencies. Can you teach this in, management schools? No. Can you teach them to a professional? No. But you need to be absolutely in the know that this is something, if you're going to be in the collections and recovery industry, you need to ensure that this kind of relationships are groomed by you, and only then you will be able to move ahead. Of course, product design, etc. For anyone who, and Samir, this is something very, very critical, and you may want to do another detailed session on this for people, especially who want to get into product design, etc. There is a fundamental called design thinking.
Yes.
Okay. And there are 5 steps to a design thinking. It is extremely critical that irrespective of whichever field you are in, whether you are doing marketing, finance, combinations of marketing, finance, technology, IT, whatever, in today's world, if you do not know what design thinking is all about, you're going to fail and fail absolutely. I would urge Samir that you need to have a very, very strong session on design thinking for everyone.
Sure, it is actually it is my what do I say, area of interest as well.
Right.
Especially, I do a lot of design programs for designing of the complete market in financial market infrastructure itself. Maybe I'll hold another session for it.
Yeah. So the whole process of design thinking, how does it happen? The 5 steps, and how does one go into the steps? And though cliched, we say that try and execute something and fail fast. That's again a outcome of a design thinking process. So very critical that one learns design thinking in whichever field one is in. Of course, if you see FY21, the market looks a little bleaker because people are struggling to, actually sustain the cost which is already there. But there is huge opportunity for people who are looking to come into the NBFC space with a technology-driven, bent of mind and contribute technologically. So, some things mentioned here, but my last 3 slides, I have just 3 slides to go, is something which I'm going to tell all of you, which will be a part of my experience. And that is going to help you if you choose your career anywhere, irrespective of being in an NBFC or not. Of course, I can never, forget what Albert Einstein mentioned. Sorry, just give me a minute. There's a lag. Okay, yeah. So, I don't need to know everything. I just need to know where to find it when I need it. All of you cannot be specialist in everything you do. Now, let me, tell you what did I learn in the first 12 years. I learned mortgages end to end, treasury, accounts, distribution, credit, risk, delivery, everything when it came to mortgages. There's practically nothing left. Builder finance, to you name it. Lease rental discounting, you name products, services, everything I learned. Then I went into insurance, national head, huge learning in distribution, international trade, couple of years. I learned banking solutions for a couple of years. So, a lot to do with banking and financial services. And then I come into a role which is corporate strategy, my first so-called desk job. And what am I thrown into? The first thing I'm thrown into is I'm told I'm to mirror the managing director. So every function I need to know. And I had never done fundraising from a treasury perspective. Okay. So all I had to do is to find out, which are the avenues of raising funds, which are the newer avenues, where is our dependence more, how do I diversify that dependence and reduce that dependence? And we started looking at international debt and so on and so forth. The fact is, did I know that before? Was I an expert? No, but I had, the whole inherent spirit in me to survive. I knew that to make myself relevant, I had to survive. If I have to survive, I need to learn. And hence, I needed to learn and find out where the knowledge was available. I reached out and gathered that knowledge. Why do I give you myself example? The reason is this is what you need to do on a daily basis, on a day-to-day basis. You cannot know everything, and there will be 10 different things which will come and hit you every day, which you know nothing about. Ask the right questions, reach out to the right stakeholders, reach out to the right technologies, reach out to the right content, and then analyze and deliver. So I think this is something which will help all of us if we, listen to what, Mr. Einstein had to say many, many years back. The next thing, staying nimble. Don't become someone who is not ready to transformation. You have to transform every day. You have to ensure that you are ready to change whenever it is required. You have to look at upskilling and reskilling yourselves. Upskilling in the sphere you're in, maximize the kind of opportunities which organizations give to train you, and keep reskilling. Keep doing new things, keep reading new things, keep learning new things. You may be in the credit risk function, you may be an investment banker. Doesn't harm if you start reading about astrology. You never know, you may just find a client at a point in time where you will just kind of break the ice by talking astrology. So, while this is anecdotal, what I'm trying to say is keep your avenues open of learning, keep your avenues open for upskilling and reskilling yourself on a very regular, structured way. You have to have a structured approach towards upskilling and reskilling and staying nimble. It is not something which happens overnight. It happens through great amount of practice. It happens by building your own habit into upskilling and reskilling. And it only happens if you have a structured strategic plan and you start executing and implementing it in your personal lives. And this is where I reconnect to your aspiration. If you're aspiring to have a future in NBFCs, even with the bleakness of the market this fiscal across the financial services space, if someone has an innovative product, innovative solution, an entrepreneurial bent of mind, you can strategize to reach out to the senior management of various NBFCs. Yourselves or your institutes can reach out with the ideas you have and actually place it with them. NBFCs today are hungry to invest in small solutions. NBFCs today are hungry to invest in small processes, solutions, entrepreneurial ventures, wherein not just will you become an employee, but you'll also start earning shares of the organization. So this is a proactive way of reaching out. Study an NBFC, target an NBFC, get into innovative solutions and present to them. The jobs will be there for you on its own. And last but not the least, let us throw from our minds away the day zero, day one, day two phenomena. That doesn't work anymore. Today, it's just, yeah.
Some people have questioned as to how pre-COVID and post-COVID this is going to be different. Remember, we were talking yesterday.
Yeah, so pre-COVID, so I'll just come to that. I'll just finish this and then come to your question. So what I'm really saying is have a targeted approach towards an NBFC, see what solutions you can bring into the table, be innovative, have an entrepreneurial bent of mind and approach this sphere. Now, pre-COVID and post-COVID. Pre-COVID, of course, lesser digital, post-COVID, of course, more digital environment. However, what we were envisaging to do, the way the operations are moving today, we were envisaging to bring in this kind of digital transformation in the next 10 years. It has happened in 3 months. Exponential growth in digital transformation. Very important to understand is to align yourselves to this, pre-COVID, post-COVID scenario, because all those beliefs of, campus recruitments or all those beliefs of, being able to go through a structured recruitment process may or may not hold good going in the future. You now have to add value to what you want. Hence, you will have to demonstrate going forward that in the new environment, in the new normal, your skill sets match. And you need to be able to give that presentation. And the best part is today, you don't need to wait for anyone to come to you. Today, the transformation has happened in the last 3 months to an extent when you can reach out to anyone and everyone at the, at just the push of a button.
May I add something, Sandeep?
Yeah, please go ahead.
See, all of you, how opportunities open. This particular session I wanted to do physically in a college auditorium, okay, where perhaps we could have invited 200 people from Mumbai. But now the opportunity has opened itself and about 1,300 people were able to register and participate simply because of this transformation that has happened 3 months ago. Perhaps 3 months ago, there would have been no takers for an online seminar, but see how the difference has come in.
So Samir, that also gives genesis to a very challenging situation. If it was the physical world, there would be 200 plus competitors among each other with added knowledge. Now there are 1,300 competitors with added knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay, so competition is going to be fierce, but don't get disheartened. Create a moat. Today, what do? We differentiate our products and policies and practices to survive in the market. As professionals, each one of you would need to find yourself and your delivery impetus to the world. If you do not know what exactly you do better than others, that would be the starting point of degeneration. But where you can do well is to find out what you do better than others on an ongoing basis. Yes, I am able to create relationships better. Now let me see, can I build a better relationship model through technology? Can I build a career in relationships, etc.? So one needs to now discover and put that to the table and seamlessly.
Sandeep, can I add something?
Yeah.
Just a bit of marketing this thing, because you said that it's important for everybody to understand where they are different and how they are better than others. I was presenting this idea of Financial Market Leadership Institute in a very large forum. And, I said that we are a startup institute. We are more like a, garage setup where you come and you learn the ropes of financial markets. Okay. But some programs that we have designed, for example, the principles of financial market infrastructure, I claim that, we will not be Harvard, no way. But what we can teach, even Harvard cannot teach. I mean, it's a very powerful statement to make. And it's all culmination of our 20-25 years of experience of watching very closely and building institutions like clearing corporations, depository participants, etc., and how everything comes together. Interestingly, this small program that we have designed, we have kept it very affordable at about 5,000 rupees, okay, for a month. And believe me, it is very, very, very impactful. Okay, so I could make this statement on, how we are doing this much better than much bigger B schools. And immediately, we attract a lot of traction. So important message is everybody is unique, and you need to know where you are very different from all the others and work on it.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Samir. I think on that note, thank you so much, Samir, for giving me this opportunity and, digitally bringing me back to the B schools. It's an absolute pleasure that I could spend this time with all of you. And now I will, Samir, I think I'll make you the host once again so that you can take questions and ask me questions.
For question and answer?
Yeah, just a second.
For anybody who wants to ask question, please raise your hand.
Okay.
Yes, I see there are two hands. There are two hands that are raised, but I am not able to. It only says chat. Are you able to see whose hands are raised? Can you ask them to talk?
Yeah. So Rishi, you can. I'm allowing Rishi to talk. His hand is raised. Rishi.
Okay, maybe some problem with this device.
Just a second.
Rishi, can you hear us?
Rishi needs to unmute himself.
Okay, then we'll move to Poonam then.
Poonam?
Hello?
Yeah, Poonam, we can hear you.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Poonam.
Okay, is there an opportunity for a banker investor in NBFC sector?
For?
For banker investor.
For banker investor, yes. I'm unable to understand from which perspective are you asking that. Are you saying that whether bankers and investors can come into the NBFC sector?
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is a lot of work which can be done in the treasury function.
Okay.
But I would like to understand and delve more into your question in terms of what are the skill sets, and hence guide you into which are the departments or organizations you could look at.
Okay.
So that could possibly Samir can pick it up. But yes, to answer your question, there is a huge amount of opportunity available in the banking and investment professionals in the NBFC sector.
Thank you.
Poonam, you can also, I have published my WhatsApp number. You can get in touch with me
Yeah.
as well
Yeah.
and ask for a career counseling session.
Yeah. I have joined.
So I'm now
Okay,
going to
Sandeep, next person.
yeah, I'm just disabling Poonam from talking. Just then Rishi hasn't spoken. Then Shadab. Uh, Shadab, you could go ahead. Shadab.
I think what may have happened is
Hello.
they would have raised hands some time
Yeah,
back.
yeah, Shadab.
Yes, Shadab.
We go ahead. Uh, yeah, Shadab, go ahead. Okay, so I'll move ahead to Lily. Lily, please go ahead.
Next person, maybe.
Uh, Chitra. You have to unmute yourselves if you have to chat.
Hello.
Yeah, Chitra, go ahead.
Good evening, sir. First
Evening.
of all, thank you for giving us so much information on NBFCs. And sir, I have seen that NBFC has given much more opportunities and services to the sector and they grow their business as usual. And I have a certification in investment banking. And I want to know that you are having 20 years of experience and what's your message to people like us who are looking for finance opportunities in these top companies, like you are in Srey Equipment Finance Limited, and there are many companies of say like deals in mutual funds, infrastructure, and other. So, what's your message to us? Like, is there an opportunity for finance graduates, and how we
So as I mentioned, finance graduates have all the opportunities given in most of the departments. You will have opportunities in risk and finance. You will have opportunities in credit. You will have opportunities in the treasury function. You will have opportunities in corporate strategy also. And of course, if you have CIC NBFCs also, core investment companies, which invest into various companies, in group companies. You have other investment companies among NBFCs. So you could go into my list of all the NBFCs which are there, and if you want to cater to opportunity in investment banking for your career, in that case you can select such. First, go into the type of the companies.
I'm open for all finance opportunities, but I'm having much more knowledge of investment banking and private equity capital.
So if you are having more knowledge on private equity as well as investment, so look at private equity firms which are going inroads into specific NBFCs, etc. If you want to get aligned to NBFCs, there is a lot of private investments and international debt coming into NBFCs. You could look at such organizations. You could look at DFIDs also, development finance
Yes.
institutions, DFIs, which look at working with NBFCs.
Sandeep, can I also add to that?
Please.
There are a lot of specialized law firms also that are recruiting finance students in the private equity space. Okay, so you can be either of two sides. First is in the company that provides such kind of funding, but they are less likely to take freshers. Okay, they normally take laterals from good institutes, and when they move into senior positions, only then they are taken in such funding companies. The second type of opportunity is joining the startups itself, okay, and getting funding.
Because I have seen that they mostly hire experienced professionals, and they need who make financial models for them and valuations of the company. So this was the problem,
Yes.
basically. Yes, sir.
No, it's don't think of it as a problem. See, there are some things that you can only graduate over a period of time. Okay, on day one, for example, it's very difficult to get into a private equity firm in valuation function. Okay, maybe you'll have to start in an equity research organization or a brokerage firm doing equity research, then perhaps move into investment banking, then learn the ropes of how to value companies. Okay, see, studying in books and taking certifications is one thing. To be able to actually implement it in the marketplace, to put in your gut and judgment, and to refine whatever you have done, is quite an art. So you do these things for 5-6 years in different companies, and then you get into private equity space in the kind of role that you're looking for.
Samir, should we move ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have had Aditya ask questions. Okay. We have Akash Bose who wants to. Akash, please unmute yourself to ask the question. Akash has not unmuted. Lily is still unmuted in case you want to ask the question, Lily. And we have Anmol. I have allowed Anmol to talk. Shadab, I've allowed. So I've everyone who's kind of raised their hand.
So can I go on?
Who is this?
Anmol, sir.
Yeah, Anmol.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Good evening, you and Samir, sir, as well.
Good evening.
Welcome, Anmol.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I'm someone who is about to join his MBA course for the next 2 years. And because of this pandemic, we are inside our house, we are not moving anywhere. The course hasn't started yet. So being a juvenile, I would say, in this field, there is a plethora of things to be learned ahead in life regarding finance specifically. So what type of skills would you advise us being freshers to be to learn and to actually which would help us to cope up with the moving pace at which the finance world is moving around?
Sandeep, can I answer that?
Sure, go ahead.
Sorry, I had thought that I will not use any marketing, okay, for such sessions. But Anmol, you may want to connect with us for our financial market infrastructure program. Okay, simply because you are starting your MBA journey. Okay, why I have started this program is because after even 20 years of experience, 25 years of experience, I find that people going into institutes, large institutes, reputed institutes, still don't understand how exchanges function, how depositories function. They don't know what a clearing corporation is, whereas clearing corporation, believe me, plays a very, very important function. They don't know what brokers are and why brokers are needed in the first place, who's a trading member, who's a clearing member. So we have designed a 1 month and 2 month program which will take you through these things. And believe me, it is very, very affordable, only about 5,000 rupees a month. Okay. And it can, again, it's a claim that this kind of program you can get from nowhere. There is no book on it. There is no institute that teaches this program. Okay, so it can be a very good starting point for you.
Exactly, sir. There's a lot of
for all others as well.
Programs would definitely help because we have a lot of questions in our mind and there's no one to ask. Even we are going to an institute, we are provided with the best of the best materials, but these questions needs to be asked someone who is good with providing counseling about what you want to do in your life ahead. because education is something university is definitely going to provide us with the best of their knowledge, but these counseling
Actually,
are more important.
yeah, problem is, most of the institutes, nothing to take, they are doing a very good job. But the problem is there is a huge disconnect between the academics today and what the market actually demands. Okay, we all know this, but very little is being done in the correct way to actually bridge this gap. And so we thought that we will do a reverse thing. We will come from the market and get into academics. And I have published a book on how to create stock exchanges, using .NET as a technology way back in 2006, and because of which I teach and I take courses in a lot of US universities. There, the difference is that these MBA programs are full with people who have 10, 15, 20 years of work experience. Then they come to do their MBA. Unlike India, where you are required to do an MBA in most cases just after doing your BCom or engineering. So
Exactly.
it's a market-wide gap. Can I connect with you, Anmol, after this session?
Sure, sir, no problem. Definitely.
Okay.
And Samir, once again, I will request you to build courses around certain, technology-driven subjects. Like, especially when people are free, they should start learning about
You,
IoTs.
you know
They should,
what is the problem, Sandeep? There are
yeah,
a lot of courses on, say, options and futures. Okay, but none of them teach how risk management is done, how settlement is
absolutely,
done. And in options, for example, or futures, risk management is the key. I interact with a lot of students who come into the market who don't even understand how margining is done. Okay, so which is very essential if you want to learn options and futures. You cannot put in your first transaction if you don't understand the associated risks and how exchanges, clearing corporation, and brokers
absolutely,
go about doing risk
absolutely.
management. Okay, and according to me, this is the first step that anybody needs to take. They don't even understand liquidity properly. Okay, and it amazes me how it pains me actually how people get into markets without understanding these things. So our message to all is, our principles of financial market infrastructure is a very good starting program to begin with. You will not going to find this anywhere in the world. Okay, in 1 or 2 months you can complete it. It's a good mentorship program to get into the industry.
And Samir, let me tell you from the other side, all those skill sets which you just mentioned, when we hire and we hire very good students from tier one management institutes, and they come in but they don't know the basics of risk management, etc. The business world kind of gets a little shocked in handling these people. So it's very important that the gap between what the businesses expect and what is being taught in schools are kind of bridged as fast as possible.
Yes. In fact, I was interacting with, I take regular interviews for own recruitment. And, some students who come from a training institute which is stationed inside a stock exchange, they don't know what stock exchanges are and how they function. So it is very shocking actually. But anyways, that is where we are.
Yeah. So we have finished all the questions. People who raised their hands. I'm going into the chat box to see if there are any questions there. There are many chats, but just seeing.
Anmol, have you left your number in the chat? I think he has.
Sir, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sir, can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Who is this?
Sir, hi, sir. Hi, this is Aditya.
Yeah, Aditya. Tell me.
Sir, first of all, thank you for providing so much of
You're
insight. It was a very good session for us. Sir,
welcome.
my question is, sir, since you know there is a lot of buzz about this fintech technology, Bitcoin, blockchain. So, sir, can we say that this is the future of finance? But, sir, like currently I'm doing my MBA from Narsi Monji Institute. But sir, in our course curriculum, they don't include all this like financial technology related to this fintech, AI, Bitcoin, blockchain, but we know this is the future of finance.
Can I
So, sir,
take this
why
question?
generally they don't consider, like what, as sir pointed out earlier, like there is a huge difference what the college teaches and what the market demands. So, how can we
Sandeep,
bridge
can I
that
take this one?
gap? Like, how can we
Yeah.
reduce that gap?
Okay, I'll take this one, Sandeep. Okay,
Yeah, go ahead.
Aditya, I'm a CEO with a fintech company. Okay, we have started this, and now we are about 60 people in Mumbai and Pune. See, why are there no courses in fintech, and why you should not be worried about it? Okay, fintech today is I would consider it's a building block of many business principles, financial principles married to technology. Okay, for example, customer KYC is a problem. Okay, KYC is know your customer. Okay,
Yes.
which you should understand in detail. Okay, what are the risks that customer brings on the table? A retail customer, you need to understand in detail. Okay, for that actually you don't need fintech. Most of the problems that we are trying to solve in a fintech company can be isolated in blocks. It's very important for you to first understand these blocks. If you understand these blocks well, then you can easily get into a fintech company. There need not be any although there are many, there need not be any course for fintech per se. Are you getting me?
Yes, sir.
So how customers can defraud a NBFC is very important to understand. Okay, and how technology can plug that gap. For example, one very simple thing that we use is location tracking, where the customer tells you while taking a loan that he lives in Churchgate. Okay, whereas every day his location ends day end in Mira Road. So while the customer has told you Churchgate, you know inherently that he's living in Mira Road. Okay, that is where, because his day is ending. Now my basic argument is that you need to understand the business principles behind it. Okay, an exchange is trying to solve a problem, an NBFC is trying to solve another problem, a broker is trying to solve a third problem, a clearing member is trying to solve a fourth problem, a clearing corporation is trying to solve a fifth problem. My message to all of you is that you need to understand these problems very well. Okay, for example, what is the problem that a clearing member is solving? Clearing member is solving a problem that how to build trust in the system and settle transactions where there are millions of anonymous people coming and transacting. Okay, now this is a model that can be fit into fintechs very well as well, provided you know this model. Are you getting me? So understanding these building blocks of fintech is very important uh, to actually come into fintech. Okay, if you understand these basic principles, you can drive a fintech company also equally well. Does that answer your question, Aditya?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
So I'll just add to that, basically it's very important to understand the fundamentals of risk management, fundamentals of distribution, fundamentals of credit policies, fundamentals of accounting. If you do not know these fundamentals and how they work in a business environment, to build a fintech out of that would be extremely difficult, and rather it will be impossible to build a fintech out of that, because you're trying to solve a problem, as Samir said, in providing a solution. But if you don't know the fundamentals of those solutions, how are you going to solve that issue? So hence, what B schools attempt doing is to create those fundamentals for you to go to the market and learn how they operate on those fundamentals. And then from there, it helps always to have a little bit of technology driven understanding so that you can build on fintechs, etc.
Aditya, I'll give you another example. One of the problems that we were trying to solve in our company was we didn't want to keep the login ID and passwords of the lakhs of customers that we have, simply because today what are the risks associated. If somebody hacks into our Amazon web servers and gets access to login ID and passwords, it will be a huge humiliation and reputation damage for us. So what we
Yes.
did was, this was a problem we identified, okay, that we don't want to keep login ID and password. Then we gave it to our team, and somebody came back with a solution saying there are 2-3 solution providers in the US which provide very specific solution for this. Okay, and we zeroed down on a company called Auth0. Okay, you can do a research on that, Google Auth0. They provide exactly this solution that they don't need to keep login ID passwords. They will authenticate the customer and then through a secured layer transfer the connection to you. Okay. Important thing is identifying the problems. Once you have known the problem, Sandeep has mentioned in his slide that once you know the problem, you need to know where you can get the solution. And today Google gives you all the solutions. So all you need to do is, just do some research. Important thing that we are trying to drive is you should understand that this problem exists.
Got it, sir. Yes.
So Samir, you have a few questions in the Q&A boxes. You want me to read it out or you would take them?
Okay, I'll just take them one by one. Okay, where should we put our number? You can put the number in chat box, provided you are okay to come into the WhatsApp group. Okay, I need your consent for WhatsApp. Then second question is, my sister completed her MBA. She wants to do a job in banking sector. She gave banking exam. Also, it is very difficult to clear exams. Okay, she's a fresher. If she's a fresher and interested in banking, my take is just, don't sit for examinations. Go for private banks. They don't take exams, okay, or their entry barrier is a bit lesser and the work experience is very good. Okay, I don't know why till now we pursue government banks. Their market capitalization is already very less. Okay, maybe that bias of a government job actually still lures people there. But my sincere advice is join an ICICI bank or HDFC bank or an Axis bank. Learning will be much higher there. Okay, Samir, please tell me where I can find recording on this session. I will circulate recording to everybody. Okay, whoever have registered. Yes, sir. How to know that you are perfect for this job? See, any questions you have on career, we can do another workshop. I see that there are a lot of freshers. Okay, so we can have another session, a larger one for this. Any certification required from various platforms? See, certification, don't just go about blindly doing certifications. Okay, first identify where you want to make your career, and then accordingly, take suitable certifications. I can also do a session on which certifications are valuable and which are not. Okay, so we can have another session on that. When we make that WhatsApp group, you can request there. I'm doing BBA from Anand Vihar. Please visit once in our college. Okay, welcome. It is very difficult for Shreya's question. It is very difficult for some to adapt to trends happening in the business and digital world, like big data, blockchain, Python. How should we learn? Okay, Shreya, to all the 140 people who are out there, please start reading Economic Times and Business Standard on a daily basis. Okay, we can come to special sessions on how to build your capabilities in financial markets, but there also my message is the same. You have to start reading newspapers and be current. Okay, why RBI has not stepped up and taking some of the risks on its own? Okay, here some questions were there according on why banks have not transmitted basically and not given out loans in this crisis. My hunch is that banks are shying, although they are flush with liquidity, but they are still trying to shy away from credit risk. Okay,
so I'll tell you, I'll take that
Yeah.
Samir, basically because we have this first-hand knowledge on this. So banks also has your deposits, right? So as customers, you go to the bank, put your money, and the bank deploys that money. So banks have a responsibility to its customers. Risk awareness also comes from that responsibility of, creating a secured environment for its own customers who have given it money. So I don't blame banks for being risk averse. Also in an environment where in the past few years, NPAs have really going up with every possible fiscal. What could have been done and what will be done, I'm sure, is that a direct intervention of the government in terms of participating in transmission of credit. Whenever there is a problem like a lockdown or slowdown because of issues of a pandemic, etc., or even in situations of war, any force majeure kind of situation where governments need to step in directly and not use a platform like a bank to really transmit the liquidity, because even if there is liquidity, the bank may not be, because the bank has also the responsibility towards the investor in any form of the investor. That's one part. But what is also important, which we all don't discuss, is that liquidity transmission also depends on various products. Like today in India, we have a very poor secondary, NCD market. So the NCD market, the bonds market in India, the secondary bonds market, bonds practically are non-traded in India. So we have a very poor bonds market in India. We need to do a lot of work in the bonds market for transmission of liquidity. We do not have things like, a municipal bonds. There are some municipalities or corporations in India, I'm talking about city municipalities or corporations, which are sitting on humongous amount of cash, humongous amount of liquidity, and their cash flows are extremely good. Why don't they, float bonds on their capabilities? And especially when there is some kind of a quasi sovereign linkage to these organizations. So I'm just giving you a couple of examples where I'm saying that we have lots to do for transmission of liquidity in the bonds market. We have lots to do in terms of direct government interventions. And then, of course, we have lots to do in terms of our very own responsibility of paying back to the banks and financial institutions. That will also increase the transmission of liquidity. I think the whole IBC guidelines will also play a big role in, actually dissecting intent of default to circumstantial default, and thereby also create a very positive environment for transmission of liquidity. So over to you, Samir.
Okay, I think all the other questions are very basic. What I will do is I will keep another webinar and workshop to answer, basic questions. They are not relating to NBFC. They are more relating to getting sales job in banks, etc.
Right. They can obviously reach out to you, and take help of your.
Again, I am announcing my number 720-896-7050. Okay. You have, all of you have my mail ID also. I just mailed the links. So I think we can close this session, Sandeep.
Yes, Samir. So thank you once again, and
just
thank you
one last
everyone.
out. Just one last.
Yes.
So could you please tell some newspapers? Like I missed that thing when you were saying, "Na, this is a."
Okay. Economic Times and Business Standard, everybody should read. My assumption was that everybody reads, but I have taught financial risk management in Symbiosis, Pune, as a visiting faculty. And in Symbiosis also, I was shocked to know that students don't read Economic Times. Okay.
So this is the sad reality. Generally, they don't.
Yeah, please don't rely on WhatsApp news. Okay, they don't give you analysis, and they don't enable you to pitch for senior management roles and conversations. Okay, you got to read Economic Times and Business Standard yourself. Okay, and I also want to do a workshop on increasing your employability. So we'll cover all this in that workshop. I will send an invite to all the 1,300 people who had registered. So please plug in. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, and thanks all of you, and special thanks to Sandeep for taking out so much time and preparing all these slides and spending 2 hours today with us. Thank you very much.
Samir. Thank you, Samir. Thanks for the opportunity. Bye. Thank you.
Okay, thanks all of you.